Mr. President, Alaska is facing some difficult choices, and I would just submit for consideration that it's difficult sometimes for some people to compromise, and sometimes when we highlight issues in a very public way, people can entrench or can move, and so we'll see how that particular conversation goes. Mr. President, it is my opinion that the Senate has compromised many times, and emails that I'm receiving subject to annual appropriation seems to be not included in those conversations. Mr. President, Alaska has seen over 50% of our revenue lost. Our administration is moving forward and looking at having conversations with Alaskans about revenue. As I understand it, in reading media reports, we've had a difficult time in saying very many things could be eliminated from how we're using and investing Alaska's dollars. Mr. President, in reference to subject to annual appropriation, I believe that is input in all of our contracts, and it has been tested under previous administrations. It gives me no pleasure to be sitting here today and standing talking about subject to annual appropriation. But Mr. President, we don't have the money except in our savings accounts, and when we raise that platform, we will pay for it in perpetuity for years to come. And for me personally, that means Alaskans, either in our very short-term future or long-term, will see job losses. Mr. President, the only reason that we're talking at a conference committee table, as I understand it today, is because the people who have talked to me are trying to preserve the jobs of those with the least seniority around the state of Alaska that are under union contracts. Mr. President, during the normal course of legislation, this body, as well as the other, has denied cost of living increases to all non-exempt employees. Mr. President, I would put out for those people listening today that the cost of living is indeed higher than what the 3-year contract was negotiated at. Mr. President, this isn't easy, but we are trying to have a sustainable budget so Alaskans can choose to continue to live without those individual taxes and still receive their permanent funds. But if we can't prioritize where we're spending money, it will be difficult for us not to look in other directions. Mr. President, this body has fully funded, as a compromise, the BSA. We have met at a conference committee and said out loud that we support $15 million worth of additional spending, or at least we would make that recommendation to our bodies to support that additional spending. Mr. President, these are tough times. Contracts are subject to annual appropriation, and I just want to go on the record so those that I represent know the only reason it's on the table for me is that it saves, has been alluded to, 300 jobs. But we are working towards a compromise, and we do know that it is a remaining issue that needs a hard look and a good answer. Thank you, Mr. President.